Hello, my dear students. I am Inmin, your social science faculty of STAR School of Excellence. I welcome you to our YouTube channel. So, my dear students, in the last lecture we have already discussed about Indian Constitution, that after independence, how our Indian Constitution came into effect, what was the need of making that Indian Constitution, and how it was made through Constituent Assembly and Drafting Committee. That part we have already discussed. So, in the today's lecture, we would be discussing upon the basic features or what all are the guidelines on which our constitution was made. Like in the preamble, there are certain words which are mentioned. What is the meaning of all those words that we would be discussing. Secondly, we would be discussing what were directive principles, what are fundamental rights. In detail, in this particular video, you'll be getting a knowledge on all these particular subjects. So let's start. Let's start with the introductory part. First of all, our Constitution of India is the longest written constitution that we have already read. It came into effect on 26th of January 1950, and that particular day is also celebrated as the Republic Day. Clear? When on which day the Constitution of India came into effect, that means on the date on which the Constitution of India was applied, that particular date is celebrated as the Republic Day of India, and it is 26th of January. Clear, my dear? Next, the Constitution of India was actually made by Constituent Assembly. The people, there are approximately 300 people were there, and the 300 people were actually responsible for making the Constitution. Clear? They gave us the objectives upon which they gave us the guideline according to which the drafting committee made the Constitution. Now, the question is, who was the chairman of the drafting committee? Exactly. The chairman of the drafting committee was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is also known as our father of Indian Constitution. So I hope the introductory part must be clear. So let's move forward. Preamble. In the last lecture also we have discussed what is preamble. Let us revise it once again. Preamble is actually the introductory statement of our Indian Constitution. Introductory statement means it gives us a guidelines what all are the basis on which our constitution is written or our constitution is made. Clear? So let us discuss it in detail. A preamble is an introduction to a document. Preamble, what is preamble? It is an introduction of any document which is made. Especially it is related to laws. It states purpose, goals and guiding principles. What does it show? What does it gives us an idea about? It gives us an idea about what is the purpose of making that law, what is its goals, and what are the guiding principles according to which the law or the constitution or the document is to be made. Clear? Next, there is one of the example, like our preamble, it is starting from the word we the people of India, and it is having some important words which are actually the ideals or the basis of making our constitution. What are those ideas? Justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. In simple words, preamble gave us an idea that a constitution should be made on which guidelines, on which ideas. These are the four ideas according to which our constitution has to be made. Clear? In detail upon regarding these words, we would be discussing upon in the next slides. Now, what was actually the purpose or what was actually the importance of making this document? Right. First of all, to show the source of authority, like in India, as we have already discussed, India is a democratic country. And in a democratic country, there are many people who would be ruling. It is not at all possible for all the people to come up and rule the country. Right. So in that case, some representatives would be chosen and those representatives would be ruling the country. But for that also, some rules and regulations should be there that how those representatives would be functioning, what all powers those people should have who would be ruling, right? So it shows a source of authority. In democracy, who is having all the authorities? The people, right? Therefore, it is written, the people is having all the authorities over here. The people are having all the authority. Clear? Next, it says the objectives of the constitution. What is the objective of making the constitution? For an example, in our fundamental rights, there is one of the right to equality. What was the need of making the right to equality? It is an objective, right? Why it was considered as an objective? Because in the earlier years, like if we go to the past, if we read about our history, we get an idea that there were some inequalities between among the people, whether it can be considered as social inequality, whether it can be considered as economic inequality. Like in monetary terms, also there was differences. In social terms, also it was differences, and there were caste differences, caste inequalities, right? So to remove those inequalities, right to equality was made. Clear? So it was considered as one of the objective of making our constitution. Clear till here, my dear? Let's move further. It describes the nature of the Indian states. Nature of the Indian states means that how Indian states would be managing or administrating their areas. For an example, have you heard about the word secular? What is the meaning of the word secular? Secular means that none of the government organizations, none of the government authorities would be following a single religion. That means each and every individual, first of all, is free to follow whatever religion that they want. Secondly, the government won't be promoting a single religion. That is actually the meaning of secular. So, according to our constitution, all the Indian states, they are not supposed to promote any of the religion. That is also one of the objectives of our constitution. Clear? It explains the guiding principles. Now, how the government would be functioning, what all rules and regulations would be given to legislature, what all functions would be performed by executives, and what all powers would be given to judiciary. These all things are also mentioned in our constitution. Clear? So these are actually the guiding principles according to which different institutions would be working. Clear, my dear? Next, what is the importance of making the constitution? First of all, the preamble guides the meaning of the constitution. Preamble gives us the guidelines according to which the constitution is to be made. It also helps the court to interpret laws. Interpret laws means if there is any law which is actually made, which is actually going against the constitution, right? So in that case, the judiciary can interfere and can declare the law as null or void. That we have already discussed in the earlier lecture. It reflects the vision of the constitution makers. That is also one of the very important points, because it actually gave us a notion that on what account, on what basis, what was the ideologies according to which the constitution was made by the constitution makers. Like for an example, if I consider as secular, India is a secular country. Why it is termed as India is a secular country? Because India is that country in which many people are following different religions, right? Why people are allowed to follow different religions? Because it is a secular country. Like if we would be following only a single religion, it won't be possible for each and every individual to follow his or her own religion freely. Clear, my dear? Next, it promotes unity and national values. How it promotes unity and national values? Like, have you heard about the word fraternity? The word fraternity itself denotes that each and every individual who is residing, who is staying in our country or is a citizen of our India, that person should stay as a family, right? There should be a feeling of brotherhood among every Indian. Clear? So that feeling actually promotes unity and national values among the citizens. Clear? Have you got the purpose and importance of preamble as well as the constitution, my dear students? I hope you got it. So let's move further. Talking about the core values. What were the core values? What were the ideas according to which the constitution was made? First of all, it is a sovereign nation. What is the meaning of the word sovereign? That India is free and independent. Prior to 15th of August 1947, India was a colonial state, right? But after we got independence, we became a sovereign country. Clear? So sovereignty means that India is a free and independent nation. Clear? So whenever you will be hearing of the word sovereign means that particular thing is free and independent. Clear? Next, India is a socialist country. Socialist means it aims for the welfare and equality for all. Here, all means, for an example, there are certain properties which are available. So it is not at all compulsory that those properties will lie only in hands of few wealthy people. All the properties will be divided amongst all the citizens of India. Clear? Why? Because it is a socialist country. Understood, my dear? And here I am talking about the government, the things which are under government undertakings. I am not talking about private holdings. Clear? Next, it is a secular country. We have already discussed that India is a secular country. The government or the state is not at all following, not at all promoting a single religion. So I hope this point is clear. Democratic. The word democratic means that the people would be electing their own representatives or they would be electing their own leaders. So whenever you would be hearing of the word democratic refers to that the people would be choosing their own leaders, their own representatives. Clear, my dear? Next, republic. This particular word, my dear, can be divided into two parts. Means representative. Means representatives. Now, representatives of public. So, republic means whenever the head of the state is elected, but he is not considered as a monarch. Clear? So, republic means that the person would be elected, he would be ruling of the country on behalf of the people, but he is not a monarch. He is actually considered as a servant of the people. Clear? Next, the main goals were to provide justice to the people, to give them liberty, that is to give them freedom, to provide equality. Equality means everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Nobody would be discriminated on any grounds. Last is fraternity. Fraternity means all the people who are residing, they would be living as they are a member of a single family. Clear? There would be a feeling of brotherhood. There would be a feeling of care amongst different individuals who are residing in India. Clear? Who are the citizens of India. Clear? Next, these values guide India to be fair, free, united, and equal for all. So all these things actually gave us a guidelines according to which our country has to function or according to which our constitution is made. I hope things are clear till here, my dear students. So let's move further. Next, what all are the objectives of making the constitution? First of all, providing justice. We have already discussed in the previous slide, but where the justice has to be provided, the justice has to be provided in the society. That means equal status should be given to all the individuals. If they are getting discriminated on any basis, they can move to judiciary, they can move to court if their rights are getting hampered or if their rights are getting violated. Clear? Second, economic justice. Economic justice means if there are certain, you must have seen some beggars like in our society, right? You must have seen some people who belong to liberal class who used to reside on roadsides, on the footpaths, right? So those people are actually considered who are economically deprived. Clear? So some justice should actually be given to them. For an example, have you seen a tea vendor who is actually sorry, who is actually selling tea on a roadside? Have you seen that? Right? If the government is actually displacing that person from one place to another, so in return, government should give him or her a place on which he or she can earn the money, right? So that that person won't be economically deprived of his or her occupation. Clear? So in this way, government will be providing us economic justice to that person. Understood? Next is political justice. Political justice means everyone who wants to stand in the election who is above the age of 25 years, they actually have a right that they can also stand as a representatives and they can also fight elections. Clear? So this was actually given as political justice. Understood, my dear? Next, liberty. Liberty means we are free to express our views. We are free to move from one place to another. We are free to do whatever we feel like as a citizen of our country. But though that freedom is also given with some sort of limitations. What all limitations are there? We would be discussing it upon soon when we would be discussing fundamental rights. Next, equality. We have already discussed all forms of equality is provided by the constitution. That is, no sort of discrimination would be done with any individual, with any citizen of India, whether it would be on basis of caste, whether it would be on the basis of creed, whether it would be on the basis of gender, whether it would be on the basis of skin color. No sort of discrimination would be done. Last is fraternity. That is, it promotes a sense of brotherhood and unity. It ensures the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. What is the motive of fraternity? That each and every individual of our India is actually a member of the same family, and we should help each and every person who is residing in India. Why we should do that? Because it would promote the unity in our nation. Clear? Lastly, in short, our objectives of our constitution is to ensure justice, liberty, equality, fraternity for all the citizens. I hope the points are clear to you all, my dear. If you are having any doubt, kindly jot down, keep a notebook in your hand and kindly jot down all the points so that whenever you will be coming for the offline classes, we can discuss upon those things in our class. Or you can do one more thing. You can either comment on the video so that I can give you the answers or whatever queries you are having. Let's move to the next slide. Parliamentary system. What is parliamentary system? Parliamentary system is all the representatives which are being chosen by the people. Like I have already told you, the representatives are actually elected from the people, right? By the people and for the people. That is, they are chosen from the people, they work for the people, and they all the rules and regulations they are actually been making for the people only. Clear? Now, the question arises where those representatives would sit, where they would think upon, where they would be making those policies. Clear? So, the place where those representatives, the elected leaders, would be residing is called the parliament. The parliament is also divided into two parts. The lower house is known as the Lok Sabha. and the upper house is known as Rajya Sabha. Clear, my dear? So, the head of the Lok Sabha is the lower house, Rajya Sabha is the upper house, and both the houses comprises to make the parliament of our country. Clear? Now, the question arises: who would be sitting in the parliament? So, the person who actually belongs to the majority party sits in the Lok Sabha. Clear? And those people are known as MPs. What are they known as? They are known as MPs. Like whosoever who got elected as a minister and is sitting in the parliament, that person would be known as member of parliament. Clear? And the short form would be MPs. And the leader of all those MPs is known as the PM. Who is the PM of India? Exactly. Narendra Modi ji is the PM of India. Clear? He belongs to the majority party. Clear till here, my dear? Let's move further. The head of the state and the head of the government are separate in India. What is the meaning of that? That is, the head of the state is actually the president. Who is the head of the state? Head of the state is actually the president. Whereas head of the whole government is prime minister. Understood? No, there is a little confusion in this. See, whenever something has to be done in real, like whenever a thing has to be done in function, so who would be doing that? PM, Prime Minister would be doing it. Clear? And whenever there is something, let's say there is some document which is to be signed, which is to be finalized, so in that case, whom should be referred to? The president. Clear? So in that case, the powers are actually divided between two. Understood? The real work is done by the prime minister. Clear? But the nominal work, that is the person who is representing India would be president. That is officially in nominal terms, the person who is actually the leader, actually the head of India would be president. Clear? But functional head would be the prime minister. Understood? Let's move further. Executives is the part of the legislature. That is, the prime minister and the ministers are the members of parliament. Clear? So, executives are also a branch which is actually related to legislature. Understood? Let me clarify it. Legislatures are those people. Three bifurcations were there, right? Legislature, executive, and judiciary. These are the lawmakers, these are the law executors, and these are the decision makers. Clear? Who all are making the laws? Members of parliament. Clear? Who all are executing of the laws? Again, members of parliament. But along with members of parliament, government officials are also there. Who all are there? Government officials. Clear? So, some part of executives is connected with the legislature. Understood? Therefore, it is given as the the executives is the part of the legislature. Understood this statement? Let's move further. What is the responsibilities of government? The government is accountable to the parliament. Second, if it loses its majority support, it must resign. That means all the policies which are made by the government is actually accountable. The government is actually responsible for making all the policies, for taking all those decisions. Understood? If that government loses its majority in the parliament by passing no confidence motion, so in that case, that government has to resign, including the PM, that government has to resign from their post. And again, elections would be conducted. Clear? Next, elected representatives. The people elect MPs and MPs choose the prime minister. Now, how the prime minister is getting chosen up? It is getting chosen up by those representatives of different areas who became the MPs. Clear? After becoming the MPs, those MPs actually choose a leader for governing, for running the government of our country. Understood? I hope things are getting cleared steadily. Lastly, let's read out the conclusion. In parliamentary system, people elect the parliament. Understood? People are electing the people. People will be electing the ministers of the parliament, and the parliament runs the country through prime minister and council of ministers. And the parliament would be the people would be making a government in parliament, and that parliament would be running and managing the whole country. And who all will be sitting in that parliament? Council of Ministers along with the Prime Minister. Understood? I hope the topics are getting clear, my dear. Now, what is the structure of government? The structure of government is, firstly, it is parliamentary structure divided into two parts, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. I have already told you. It is a bicameral legislature and it is divided into two parts, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Clear? Now, our government is also divided into federal system. This is the separation of, this is the bicameral legislature, that is the division of legislature. But it is also divided in vertical sense. Understood? Now, what is vertical sense? It is also known as federalism. What is federalism? Federalism means when the power is divided between different levels, right? In India, we have three levels. The first level is the union on the or the central government. Union on the central government. What is actually the powers which they have? The power is they had to govern the entire country. Clear? And the head would be president as well as the prime minister. Clear? The second level or the second tier is of state government. It is actually governing all the states which comes under their administration. Clear? Now, the head of the state government is governor as well as chief ministers. Understood? It is the same way. Like the president was the nominal head, prime minister was the real head. In the same way, governor would be the nominal head and chief minister would be the real head. That means they would be actually doing the work, whereas the assigning authority lies with the president as well as the governor. Clear? Next, local government. It actually governs all the towns and villages, the smaller areas at the local levels. Clear? It includes panchayats and municipalities. Have you heard about Nagar Nigams? Nagar Nigams are actually the municipalities which comes under the local level. Clear? In simpler words, India's government works at three levels, that is national, state and local levels. Why it is done so? So that each and every area, each and every place could be managed in a best possible way. Understood? Next. What is the role of Prime Minister? One of the most important roles. Prime Minister is the head of the government that we have already discussed. It plays a critical role as the leader of the executive branch. Leads the government. First and foremost role of the Prime Minister is it leads the government. Clear? All the decisions are taken by, all the majority of the decisions are taken by the Prime Minister. He or she also gives their advices to the president on any matters. Clear? Next, he or she represents the country. Whenever there is any international meetings or talks, who would be representing India? Prime Minister would be doing that. Clear? He is also the leader of the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha is the lower house. Clear? The maximum number of ministers, the maximum number of members are in Lok Sabha. Clear? So, PM is actually the leader of Lok Sabha. It leads the majority party in Lok Sabha, that is the lower house of the parliament. coordinates meetings, ensures all the ministries work together and smoothly. That is, if any of the ministry is not able to do their work properly, who would be asking for their work, who would be asking whether the work is done on timely basis properly or not? He is the Prime Minister. Clear, my dear? Moving to the next slide. How actually anything would become a law? That is a very important question which usually comes in the mind of the students, right? So in this slide, we will be answering that thing. First of all, whatever whatever a law has to be made, the proposal has to be presented in the parliament, right? And the parliament is divided into two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So the first and foremost thing is, I'm sorry. So the first and foremost thing is introduction of the bill. Bill is actually a proposal of any law which is presented in parliament. Clear? So that bill has to be presented in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. That is the first step. Second, discussions and debates are to be made by the members of parliament. That is, each and every individual gave their opinion on that particular bill, whether the bill has to be passed or what all are the reasons why they are denying their approval. Clear? So discussions and debates are being done on those bills. Second, votings are done. The bill is voted on if most members agree, it passes that house. That is, if the bill is getting two-third majority, if the bill is getting two-third majority votes, then the bill is passed to the next house. Approval is given by the other house and then it goes to the president as if the president signs up a bill. As soon as the president is signing up that bill, it immediately becomes a law. Clear? If after both the houses passes the bill, it is sent to the president for approval. And how it would become a law? Once the president signs, the bill becomes a law. Understood? So these 6 points are the process how the bill will become a law. Understood, my dear? So, moving further, talking about fundamental rights. Beta, fundamental rights, as we have already discussed, we have 6 fundamental rights which are given to us. One is, excuse me, one is right to equality. That is, every person who is the citizen of India, he or she is equal on every basis, whether the basis is of religion, whether the basis is of whether it is on religious basis, caste basis, gender basis, or the place of their birth. Everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Second is right to freedom. In this right, we have freedom of speech. We are free to speak whatever we feel like. We are free to express our views, right? We are free to assemble. We are free for movement. We are free that whichever occupation we feel like, we can opt for that. Understood? So that all the things are included. Those all the things are included in our right to freedom. Right against exploitation, it means it protects us against any forced labor or child labor. If you would observe any child who is below the age of 14 and he or she is being forced to do some household work in return of some monetary benefits, in return of some amount, finances. So in that case, you can actually complain it on 1098 because it is illegal according to our constitution. Excuse me. It is our actually basic right, basic fundamental right to that is right against exploitation. If any of the person is getting exploited, that is any child is there who is actually forced to work in spite of um, getting their elementary education. So in that case, a complaint can be filed on that person who is making that particular child work at his or her place. Clear? Next, right to freedom of religion, that is, each and every individual is free to follow whichever religion they feel like. Fifth is cultural and educational right. That means we have the right that we can preserve our culture, our language, our tradition. How we would be doing that? Like I've already told you, there are different religions in India. Right? Different peoples are following their own different religions. Right? So to safeguard those particular traditions, there is a right to cultural and educational right, which is given to us as a fundamental right. Clear? Cultural and educational right actually ensures that if I want to give some religious teachings according to my religion, I am free to do that. Some other person, if he or she wants to spread teachings or ideologies of his or her religion, he or she is also free to do that. So, why we are able to spread the teachings or the knowledge related to our religion, it is our because of our fundamental right, which is cultural and educational right. Understood? Lastly, which is also considered as the most important right, that is right to constitutional remedy. My dear students, right to constitutional remedy is the right which is actually safeguarding, which is actually protecting all these above five rights. That is, if any of the individual is trying to hamper, is trying to snatch these rights from us, so according to right to constitutional remedy, we can move to court against that particular person. Clear? Now the question arises, like, to which court should we go? Should we go to session court? Should we go to district court? No. Actually, there are two courts which are available, that is High Court as well as Supreme Court. Clear? So, if your fundamental rights are getting violated, you can move to either court, either it can be High Court or either it can be Supreme Court. Clear, my dear? I hope the topics are getting cleared slowly and steadily. If you are having any doubts, kindly ask in the comment section, or you can also jot down those points in your notebooks so we can discuss it upon in the offline classes. Enforcement mechanism, like how the fundamental rights are being enforced. First of all, if anyone's fundamental rights are violated, that person can approach to the courts for justice. Clear? Second, Supreme Court and High Courts have the power to hear the cases related to the violation of fundamental rights. I hope the points are getting clear. The power is given under Article 32, that Supreme Court would be hearing the case, and Article 226, upon that High Court would be hearing of the cases. Court can order the government to stop violating the rights and provide compensation. That is, even if the government is actually hampering your rights, the court can actually pass an order and they can stop the government they can stop the government whenever they would be doing so. Understood? Next, in simple words, if your fundamental rights are broken, you can ask the court to protect and restore them. The courts have the power to enforce these rights. Clear? So whenever you feel like that your rights are getting violated, you are free to move to the judiciary or the courts. So what all courts you will be moving to? Either Supreme Court or High Court. Clear, my dear students? Chaliye. Next. What are the limitations and what are the responsibilities of fundamental rights? First of all, rights are not absolute and have some limits to protect the public interest and security. Rights can be restricted for security of the country. For an example, I told you that we are having the right to freedom. We are free to move here and there from one place to another wherever we feel like, right? But in case of emergencies, if there is some contingencies, if there is some war-like situations, or let us take the example of COVID-19. So during that time, our right to freedom was actually restricted. Why it was restricted? It was restricted for our own benefit, right? Because during that time, as the epidemic was spreading quite with a quite speed, with a quite pace, so to stop that, our fundamental right was restricted. It was given an order that you should remain isolated in your houses or in your homes so that the epidemic would not spread. Understood? So in some of the cases, the fundamental rights can be restricted. Clear? Next, restrictions can be imposed for public order or morality. That is, for the benefit of public, those restrictions can be imposed. Laws can limit rights to prevent harm to others. Clear? Like it can be limited so that it won't harm others. For an example, let us take once again the example of right to freedom. We are having right to freedom. We are free to move wherever we feel like, where we can reside wherever we feel like, right? It is a right to freedom. But does that also states that you are free, that you can go to your neighbor house and reside in that particular house? No. Why? Because your right to freedom will be hampering his or her right to freedom. Clear? So, your fundamental rights, you can function up according to your fundamental rights only till that point when your fundamental rights are actually not hampering the rights of others. Clear? Next, freedom of speech cannot include hate speech or violence. Like we are having freedom of speech, we can express our views, but our views or our expressions or our speech should not harm or should not hurt the sentiments or the feelings of others. We have to make sure that whatever we are speaking, whatever we are expressing, we should be polite enough, and that should not harm others, that should not harm the feeling of others, other individuals, other citizens of the nation. Clear? Next, what are the responsibilities? Along with the rights, every citizen has duties to keep the nation safe and united. Some of the duties are mentioned here. First of all, respect the rights of others. Right now, we have discussed that point, that your rights should not hamper or should not violate the right of others. That is also our fundamental duty. Second, all the rules and regulations which are given in the Constitution, it is a duty to follow those laws of the country. Clear? Next, it is also a duty to promote peace, harmony, and unity. As we are a member of the same family, so we should behave like one. We should behave like we are united. We should we should live in a harmony, in a peaceful way. Clear? Next, protect the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. That is, our nation is on the top. Like if any certain person who is actually disgracing our nation, so we should stand united against that thing. We should not hear anything bad about our country, about our nation, about our motherland. Directive principles. Because directive principles are those things according to which the government functions for the welfare of the society in the societal way or the economic way. Clear? Whenever some laws are made for the welfare of the economic sections or for the welfare of the society, that all those laws comes under directive principles. They focus on reducing poverty. Some of the points on which directive principles work is reducing poverty, promoting education, health, improving living conditions of the people. These are some of the basic points according to which the directive principles work. Unlike fundamental rights, directive principles are not legal and enforceable. That is, the courts cannot force the government that they should make the laws related to directive principles. It actually depends on the government whether they want to make the laws for directive principles or not. They help create a better society with justice and equality. But if the laws are made according to directive principles, it would promote equality in the society, right? If there would be equality in the society would automatically become better, right? because each and every individual would be equal. There won't be any sort of differences. There won't be any sort of disparities. Clear? What is the purpose and significance of those directive principles? The directive principles of the state policies guide the government in formulating, in making those policies. It aimed at promoting social and economic welfare. These principles are fundamental. That means these principles are important in addressing issues like poverty, equality, education, and providing framework for creating a society that reflects the aspirations of the citizen. But if the government is actually functioning upon the directive principles, it would automatically lead to making a better society, right? So the government should function on these directive principles, but as I've already told you that the government is not at all bound to function or to make laws for these directive principles. It actually fully depends on the will of the government. If they are having enough amount so that they can spend on the betterment of these particular sections, so they would be making it. What is the relation between fundamental rights and the directive principles? Directive principles work alongside the fundamental rights to ensure comprehensive justice. Fundamental rights focuses on individual liberties. Directive principles are aspirations directing the state to take actions towards achieving substantive equality and social justice. Beta, fundamental rights are actually working for an individual person, whereas whenever we are talking about directive principles, we are talking about a group as a whole. Clear? Fundamental rights is considered for a single individual from the point of view of a single individual, whereas directive principles are actually made by keeping in mind that it has to be made for the group, for the whole segment of the society. Clear? Together they create a balanced vision for a societal progress. But if both the things are actually made in a proper way, the society would function in a better way. What all are the challenges in making these directive principles? Firstly, it is not at all a legal binding on the government to make these directive principles, right? We have already discussed. No court can force the government to make any laws related to directive principles. Second, because of the limited availability of money, because of the limited availability of resources, in many of the cases, government actually omit making any laws. They actually avoid making any laws related to directive principles. In many of the cases, there are certain conflicts in between directive principles and fundamental rights. Like fourth, political will. Success depends on the commitment, like how willingly the government wants to make certain laws for the betterment of the society. Fifth, because of the large population and diverse population. Diverse population means that different people of different mindsets are staying in the country. So therefore, it sometimes make quite difficult for the government to make certain laws for the people according to the directive principles. One of the most important points, universal adult franchise. What is universal adult franchise means? Universal adult franchise is actually the right to vote which is given to each and every adult of our nation. So, universal adult franchise is the right of all adult citizens of a country to vote in elections. Clear? So whenever every individual, every adult is actually voting of our country, that thing would be known as universal adult franchise. But along with that voting, there shouldn't be any sort of discrimination between the individuals. Like there shouldn't be any sort of discrimination on the basis of caste, on the basis of religion, gender, education, or any other means. Clear? Let's discuss the definition of universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise refers to the right of all the adult citizens to vote and ensure that every individual has a voice in the governance. How individual would be having their voice in the government? Would be they would be saying some sort of, all the people would be saying some sort of speech? No, it is not like that. Every individual would be having their voices, means they have chosen their representatives by the means of elections, right? That means they gave their opinion, they gave their view that according to him which person should get elected. Understood? Next, this principle is foundation for democracy, promoting political participation and empowering the citizen to influence the decision making processes that affect their life. So every adult is actually participating in the election process. The person who will be getting the majority of the support, how he would be making the laws? He would be making the laws according to the people, right? So as each and every individual is participating, therefore it would be reflecting the mindset of the people, because majority of the people are supported that leader, that representative. Clear? Understood? Voting rights in India. Voting rights in India are divided into four types. First, four features. First one is universal adult franchise. We have already discussed. Whatever votings are being done, those votes are actually equal for all. That means if I am voting and along with me one more person is there, so the value of the both votes would be same. It is not so that my vote would be counted as 2 and his vote would be counted as 1. It is not so. Clear? That is, if I am also giving the vote, he is also giving the vote, then the value of the vote would be same. Next, free and fair elections should be there, and that too on a regular basis. No false measures should be adopted in the voting process, in the election process. Right to vote is actually a legal right. It is not a fundamental right. It is a legal right. It is given to each and every citizen, adult citizen, and it is not a fundamental right. It is a legal right. Do remember that. What is the impact of universal adult franchise on democracy? Universal adult franchise is pivotal. Pivotal means important to the health of democracy, fostering a culture of accountability and representation. By ensuring that every vote counts, it encourages citizens' engagement in the political process and leading a government that is responsive to the needs and desires of the people. That is, according to universal adult franchise, whosoever representatives are getting elected, obviously they would be making the policies and the rules and regulations according to the people. That is, the majority of the people have chosen that person, and in return he would be making the policies according to their benefits, according to the benefits of the people. So indirectly the people are actually making the rules and regulations for themselves. Clear? Conclusion: Indian Constitution, through fundamental rights and directive principles, create a robust framework for democracy and social justice. By recognizing the significance of these rights and impact of universal adult franchise, we can collectively work realizing the constitutional vision of a just, equitable, and inclusive society. That means if each and every segment would be doing their work properly, so it would be making a better society for the future. Clear, my dear? So this was our topic of the day. I hope the things are clear, and if you people are having any doubt, you're free to raise up your questions and ask in the comment section, or either we can discuss it upon in the offline classes. If you are having any doubts, I request do note it down. Do give this video a like, a share, and see you in the next class. Bye-bye.